Sup, y'all? Welcome back to Simmer Down. You already know what it is. This is Randy. I'm Huddy. And today, again, we have another unique video for y'all. Podcast, video, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, as of recording this, Artemis 2 just landed. All the astronauts are home safe. And this has sparked a lot of discussion at work. And we've come to realize Randy does not believe in the moon landing.
Not true. To a sense.
We're going to get into it. So Randy does not believe that everything we know about the original moon landing is true.
Mhm.
And we're going to debate that today. So if you want to pause the video now, you can go and grab your popcorn and snacks and come back. This might take 2 hours. We're going to go as long as we need to. And yeah, we each have things prepared. I don't think I have any pictures. If you have stuff you want to put up, I will put that up in the video. If you are listening to this on Spotify, there won't be anything in your screen. Sorry, guys. But yeah, let's jump into it.
Alrighty.
So, you want to go first, or should I?
Well, what is there to say? I don't believe in the moon landing. To a sense. I believe that we sent rockets to the moon, but we did not land human feet on the moon.
It's a very strange way to say that.
Yeah. So I believe that they went up into space and they landed on the moon, but there was no humans inside. So that is my take on it. And yeah, let's hear you change my mind, Hudson.
I don't know, man. I think that there isn't really anything to prove there. I think it's just whatever what they're telling us is true. And even if like that minor details are off and the motives behind what they tell us aren't all what we think they are, I still think that the information that we're getting it's not wrong.
Okay.
So I don't know. But I got some info here. I know you've done some prep. Do you want to go through your stuff first, or do you want me to go through my stuff?
You can go through your stuff first, and then I will feed off of you that way.
All right. So for the ones on not being able to see this, I have a piece of paper here with me that I wrote down some stuff.
That he has double-sided stuff on.
I ran out of room. Well, not quite. I have a little bit of room left over. But this is
I'm assuming that they're takes, right?
The takes, most of this is just for clarification.
Okay.
The takes are in the back with a little bit of supporting thoughts to go with it.
Okay.
So all of the information that I have here, I will link. Hey guys, I'm editing the video, and I don't actually have the links to all of my information anymore. It's a week after the fact, give or take, and we lost the information. So we will not be linking anything. We're sorry. You're just gonna have to take our word for it. I don't even care, man. This is just a debate for a podcast that half the people that are going to watch probably are going to turn off after the first 2 minutes. And so what do we care? What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Anywho, exactly. If we want to debate...
Also, we are not let's say we're not qualified to necessarily give out information about this stuff. We just are debating on it.
We are two randoms that have opinions. And we are going to share those with you. So here we go.
Yep.
First point, if we want to debate this, we need to figure out what exactly we're debating, right? What are we talking about here? Brief history, right? The Apollo missions were the program that put people on the moon from the US. They ran from 1961 to 1972, right? 11 years of rockets from NASA. After a bunch of test rockets, if you want to call them that, and kind of like feelers as to how far is this going to go? Does this concept of what we've designed work? Can be paired together with this other concept that is built for something different? How compatible are they? A bunch of those. Then all of that happens from 1961 to 1967, right? After that, NASA officially begins the Apollo missions with 3 uncrewed rockets, right? Apollo 4, 5, and 6. It didn't start with Apollo 1. They had different names. I'll get to Apollo 1 later on, but there is no official Apollo 2 and Apollo 3. Just not the way that they named them. But the first rockets that were uncrewed that were launched with the Apollo name were number 4, 5, and 6. These were meant to certify that the rockets that we were launching were actually safe for the crew missions. And following the success that they had, NASA began the manned launches with actual people inside. So Apollo 7, this is the first rocket launched that actually held people in it. But numbers 7 through 10, so 7, 8, 9, and 10, these ones were demonstrating the capability of the rocket. They didn't go to the moon, but they were demonstrating we can have people inside of this thing that are able to control the rocket. The rocket that we've designed is actually able to do the things we want it to do, and leading up to the eventual goal of getting people on the moon. So,
Question.
All right.
What did these rockets do necessarily?
What did they do? They demonstrated.
What did they do?
What did they do?
Where did these launches go?
They reached low Earth orbit, so getting to kind of like a low orbit around the Earth.
Okay.
They reached lunar orbit, which is orbiting the moon. They demonstrated the ability to operate the control module, which is one of the modules needed to be able to send someone to the moon and then come back from that and go home.
Okay.
As well as, let me find my note.
So when you say the lunar,
that was 3. There's one more.
Okay.
And after the control module, they operated the lunar module. This is the module that would later take people to the moon and then return back to space.
Okay.
These 4 launches demonstrated that the rockets we've designed are capable of getting to the moon.
And these are all man-held.
These were all man-operated by people in the rocket.
Okay.
Those are rockets 7 through 10.
Okay. So I got a question on that then.
Yeah.
So if they went to orbit the lunar, the lunar, right? So then why do they say that this is the first time that they actually orbited the moon?
What do you mean? Is this the first time we've orbited the moon?
Because this is the first time that we've actually gone around to the backside of the moon.
This is the first time that we've documented like the backside of the moon. I think the rocket demonstrated that we were able to get there.
That's not what they're saying, though.
Apollo 13 orbited the moon.
That's not what they're saying, though. They're saying this is the first time that we're going around the moon.
I think there is a difference of
to the backside of the moon. This is the first time we're going to the backside of the moon.
When you say the backside, you're referencing the dark side, right?
Yeah.
If you think of the moon as a 2-dimensional thing, and we just do a big circle, then I see where you're coming from, but it's different. I think there's a difference of this is the dark side, and we do a loop like this, we do a loop like that, or we do a loop like that. This side of the moon is the dark side. When the moon orbits the Earth, we never see this part of the moon. I think that's what they're referencing here. And I could be wrong, but there is a difference between what Artemis 2 has done, what Apollo 13 did, and what these rockets did. By entering that orbit, that just means that they were within a close enough proximity of the moon to be able to stay in that place because of the moon's gravity.
But in order for them to do that, they have to go into the backside of the moon, though.
I don't know which part of the moon they went around. And I think that is one of the big distinctions between Artemis 2, Apollo 13, and these rockets.
So, no, but in order to get onto the orbit of the moon, they have to automatically go around it.
The distinction, this is exactly what I just said. The distinction that is being made, from my understanding, is not, I don't think people are saying we've never done this before.
No, but that's exactly what they're saying.
I think we're misunderstanding, right? I'm going to keep going and then I'll explain this after, but there's a little bit more here and I think it'll clear things up a bit, right?
Okay.
The purpose of these 4 rockets, Apollo 7, 8, 9, and 10, is to demonstrate the capability that they can actually get there. And they're all successful, right? Following
somehow.
They're all successful. After these is Apollo 11. This is the first successful moon landing with humans on board, right? Okay. So the reason I say humans on board, previously, the USSR, the Soviets, and the US, we've done soft landings. We've taken different satellites and rockets, not satellites. We've taken different, whatever you call them, like probes or whatever. And we've had hard landings, which is when you have something that is designed to gather a bunch of information about the moon before crash landing into the moon. And we've also had soft landings, where you design something to land on the moon and function for a time before.
So there was soft landings.
There were soft landings.
Okay.
But those were only machines, right?
Okay.
They functioned for a period of time, and then eventually, because of technological limitations, they don't work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to tie into a little bit more of what I have here afterward. We have, like, the US had those. The Russians had those already, right?
Mm-hmm.
At this time in, what is it? I think it's 69. Then that's already something that we've done. So Apollo 11 is the first moon landing where we have the lunar module from the rocket landing on the surface of the moon with humans. That's when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, they hop out, they walk on the moon, and then they come back, right? That's the first moon landing. And do I have any other notes about that here? So previously to Apollo 11, the Soviets have beaten the US to space with a host of projects, right?
Everything.
Like they had the first, what do I have written down? Sputnik is the first ever satellite to do a low Earth orbit, was in 1957. Luna 1 is the first spacecraft to fly by the moon, and the Luna 9 was the first soft landing of a spacecraft on the moon in 1966.
Mm-hmm.
That's all Russian stuff.
I should ask a different question about the lunar
orbit.
Lunar orbit. Did these rockets get retrieved?
Most of them did not.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. I'm thinking of something different. Which rockets? Like the Apollo 11 rockets?
Yep. All of them. Like most of them. Like obviously the ones that landed on the moon.
So
they're still there.
Right?
Right?
The soft landing ones, I don't think that most of them did. Most of them are still on the moon.
Yeah.
The hard landing ones crashed into the moon and they're smashed to smithereens.
Uh-huh.
Apollo 7 through 10 were missions that went to the moon and came back.
Yeah.
So those were all landings when we had people that went to space, observed the moon, and came home. So those we do have. Apollo 11 went to the moon, came home.
Why do you never hear about those?
We did. It was just in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, but why do you not hear about those?
We did.
Yeah, I'm just saying, why don't you hear about, like, obviously these big successful missions?
It's because they weren't the biggest missions. In the 60s, they were. Mm-hmm. At the stage we are now, mm-hmm. Apollo 11 is the big ticket item because that was the historic event of putting a man on the moon. Mm-hmm. The ones before that, in their time, were the big ticket items, but they were surpassed. And mm-hmm. once you've been passed, you kind of get forgotten about, right? Nobody, if you're not Canadian, you don't know who Andre DeGrasse is. Andre DeGrasse is the prodigy of Olympic sprinting for Canada. If you're anybody else, you don't know who that is because the only Olympic sprinter you ever heard of is Usain Bolt. Because Usain Bolt is a head and shoulders better than everybody else.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that Andre DeGrasse doesn't exist. That just means he's been overshadowed by somebody that's better than him. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that he's incorrect, like he's wrong or he's bad or that he doesn't do anything that's substantial, but he's overshadowed.
Okay.
That's what's happening here. Mm-hmm. These missions existed, and before Apollo 11, they were the big ticket item in the 60s. Mm-hmm. But after Apollo 11 happens, everyone kind of forgets. Of course, in their time, they wouldn't have completely forgotten. Mm-hmm. But as time goes on, that's not the big thing anymore.
Yeah.
So people do remember, but it isn't as of a significant event.
Okay.
So this is a point back to the point I want to make. So up to this point, the Russians have beat the US to everything. Mm-hmm. Apollo 11 is where that changes, and we beat Russia and the USSR to getting a man on the moon. Following Apollo 11, or including Apollo 11, NASA conducted 7 missions to the moon from 1969 to 1972. 6 of them being successful, and Apollo 13 turning into a Hollywood movie, pretty much. So what happened there is it was intended for them to go to the moon, mm-hmm. and partway there, one of the oxygen tanks blew up, and they ended up doing a rendezvous, getting slingshotted around the moon, and that's a documented time where they orbited the moon. They used the gravity of the moon to take them off of their trajectory around the moon and give them enough force to get back to Earth. So they went around the moon. And I think when you hear on the news, you have to look into a little bit. If you just read a headline that says this is the first time we've ever done anything, you have to be careful because
But
the
you have
news is going to, let's be honest, right? The news is going to probably take a lot of the truth and make a few small tweaks to make it more eye-grabbing, more appealing to people, so that more people tune in because they're selfish, right?
Yeah.
It isn't going to be purely truth. So we do have to be a little bit careful. But like the overarching idea that Artemis 2 is doing something different and unprecedented compared to these is true. It also should be noted that we haven't gone to the moon in what, over 40 years?
Somehow. Why?
So why? We'll get into that.
Okay.
I just got to finish my notes here. So 7 missions. Why did we have these 7 missions? What were they? Apollo 11, first guy. Apollo 12 demonstrated a precision landing. So the difference between the way Apollo 11 landed and the way Apollo 12 landed is that one of the guys, and I forget exactly which person it was in there, had to make last minute adjustments to the landing spot because they realized as they're getting close, the spot they picked was actually not great. It was very rocky. There was a very high chance they were going to hit boulders. And if they don't land flat, that's going to completely derail the way they get off the moon. They made last minute adjustments that were outside of the original plan to safely land the craft, which wasn't a bad thing in the end. Everything still went smoothly, but they still had to make those adjustments. Apollo 12, they really wanted to prove we actually know our stuff now. We can do this without any adjustments. And that's exactly what they did. So Apollo 11, also one of the things they did was a extravehicular activity. They call them EVAs, which pretty much means just walking on the surface of the moon and doing experiments, taking observations. Apollo 12 did 2 of these, right? Yes. And one of the other notable things they did is that they reclaimed parts of a previous Surveyor mission. The Surveyor missions were the soft landings. So these rockets that they sent with the little, whatever we talked about before, the machines that they sent out to land on the moon and gather evidence, one of those missions, and then maybe more than one of the jobs of those was to collect soil samples off the moon. Apollo 12 landed within, I don't know what it was, close proximity of one of these Surveyor missions, and they went, retrieved the soil samples it had dug up, and then took back a few extra parts. Apollo 13, they had a little bit of a rendezvous. Apollo 14 broadcasted the first color images from the moon, right? The first images we had are of Neil Armstrong. We have audio, we have video. But the first color images, other than 1 or 2 that came from Apollo 12, are from Apollo 14. They did some material science experiments, and then they did 2 EVAs. Apollo 15 did the first extended stay. So very much similar to the other ones, but they spent 3 days in the lunar module on the surface of the moon. And this is a bit of it, like this is trying to prove the ability to do a endurance mission.
Okay.
And they did the first deep space EVA to retrieve film from one of the other previously sent rockets or probes that they put out. So this is also where you get videos of the moon buggy. Like this is the mission that they would have used that. This is a couple of years, this is the 11, 12, 14. This is the 4th time that they've gone to the moon. This is the first time that they're using the moon buggy to actually traverse the surface of the moon.
Yeah.
All right. Apollo 16 was kind of like a repeat mission, getting more information and just trying to further what we know, doing everything we've already done, but just to a deeper extent. So they also did 3 EVAs and a deep space EVA. Apollo 17 brought the first ever professional geologist to the moon. So someone whose whole career is like studying geology, now they're on the moon and they're doing experiments and they're testing everything and gathering information. And then they did 3 more EVAs and a deep space EVA. Those are all the missions we did to the moon. Originally, they planned for 20, but at the time, public interest was waning. After Apollo 11 and 12, Apollo 11 had the most views of any moon landing. There was 300 million people watching this on TV.
Yeah.
That is a documented number.
Yeah.
As these moon landings progress, the public interest is like, yeah, that's cool, but we've already done that. So they got millions and millions of views, but by the time Apollo 17 is going up, they're only getting like 20 million. So the number of people that are of the public that are really interested in this has been dramatically shrunk. As well, there's reports of people that were like, yeah, I'm really excited about this. I'm going to watch this on TV, and then having the broadcast interrupted by commercials. Like, the public interest of the moon has dramatically decreased because of how much we've already done it.
Okay.
That led the government to significantly cut back on the amount of funding they were giving to NASA. When they were in the midst of all of these Apollo missions, they had roughly 4 or 5% of the state's budget. Towards the end, that got cut down to about 0.5%. So the amount of money they now have at their disposal has been dramatically cut. The amount that we've already been there, the fact that we've beat the Russians, and the fact that the Russians have not been able to kind of go toe-to-toe after the States hit the moon, there's no point where the Russians are like, oh, now we just caught you guys. There's never that. At this point in time, the Russians have not made it to the moon. Their program is now dwindling. The race is kind of ending. So now the States is like, you know what? We beat the Russians. The competition for getting to the moon is dying down a bit. Public interest has dropped. This isn't as big of a concern anymore. So we're going to call it. Yeah. And they call it after Apollo 17. So that is what we're debating here. I think it's legit, and you largely think it's not. So I have a couple questions for you, and then... Absolutely. Or do you want to rebuttal that first?
No. I would just say that, yeah, those missions, they could have all existed, and they could have all been true. But there to a certain extent, there's a lot of evidence that would be missing in my sense. I haven't looked into it that deeply, but just looking at it from the outside, like there's some big things that just don't make sense in a sense, right?
Such as?
Like, okay, like we can get into the questions, and then I'll ask you a couple after, and then yeah.
All right. So here is a few of the reasons that I have. These are just excuse me, a couple that came up to mind right away. So real people and real success, right? The astronauts and their families were not faked. Like, they interviewed the families when the astronauts went up. They interviewed the astronauts after they went up. All of this is documented. Unless all of the people involved have been completely brainwashed and left absolutely zero trace of everything involved in that, there is no logical reason to believe that they are lying. The testimonies they give and the way that they've been given, the mannerisms that they've had while they've been giving them, do not present as fake. If you came in oblivious to the debate between the fake and the real of the moon landing, and you observed the testimony of the astronauts and the families, you would not immediately assume that they're fake. Another thing, the rockets that were launched are real, they're tangible, and they actually functioned. We have evidence of this. You can do the math if you're smart enough to be able to do rocket science. You can see what we used, how it was used, the amount of fuel that we used, and what that would have given you, like in a distance-wise, how far that would have gone. You can see we put the work in to actually do this. The math was there to make this rocket work. We're going to keep going, unless you have a question.
Okay, to a certain extent, yes, I would agree with that. You know that.
Right.
Like I said, I believe that that rockets did go to the moon, and but as far as actual people going onto the moon, stepping down foot, I just can't believe that. Like that, there is so many variables that would, in a sense, obstruct that, just due to the fact that, well, there's no oxygen up there. There is, all these things that just kind of
Make it really hard.
make it really hard to believe, in a sense. Like also the fact that it's 200 and whatever 82,000 miles away. No, it's more.
Remember that
way
number.
more.
Remember that number. We'll get back to it.
Yeah, and so like that, and then just the fact that if you really think about it, not everybody would have to be in on this plan, right?
I know where you're coming from. I'm going to get through this.
Okay.
And we're going to get into it. All
okay.
right?
Okay.
So, a couple extra points here. Continuing on. If everything was fake, why would we go 7 times? If we wanted to prove that if we wanted to fake moon landing, why would you say that you've gone 7 times? Why not just say, hey, we did it?
Yeah.
And now that the public believes it, your job has been done. Why would you then create this idea that we have to go a bunch more times, and then once public interest stops, then we're going to stop?
Well,
why not just like hammer it in and make sure they believe it?
Well, what okay, this comes back to the thing. When you lie, what does a lie do? You have to cover up a lie, right? So you tell another lie, and then you tell another lie, and you tell another lie. That's essentially what my take would be on it, is you're covering up lies. By saying that we went 7 times, it in a sense just proves it even more that that we didn't go, in a sense, to the moon, because you are trying to in a sense push the agenda that we did go to the moon.
Okay.
So you keep on pounding this thing that we went to the moon, until eventually everybody believes it, in a sense, right? Which everybody did believe it, right? Everybody did believe that it was true.
And then you just wait until the public doesn't care, and then you forget about it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, follow-up question. If that's the case, why would you script the fact that Apollo 13 almost failed?
Well, like I said, I believe
that wouldn't support the idea that, hey, we actually did it. That's going to instill a distrust where we thought it was going to work, but it didn't work.
So, okay, so Apollo 13. So that's now the third, right?
The third manned mission.
Yep. So right in between the middle of how many missions they actually did, right?
Kind of, yeah.
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 So the first 2, people are like, okay, yeah, we maybe went to the moon, but there's a chance that we didn't, right? So now you automatically make a criteria for yourself, in a sense, that you say, okay, so now we're going to send up humans again. We're going to make sure that it somehow, in a sense, fails, because what I believe is like the whatever, because you literally said it, NASA and the government are connected.
NASA is a government agency.
Yeah, they are connected. They're one, right? So, and the government is in charge of the public, correct?
I know what you mean.
So, in order for them to not like waste like $1 billion on this one little thing, you want everybody to believe it, right? That we did go to the moon, because I mean, I don't think, in a sense, that they were trying to get Americans to believe it. I think it was more so the fact that they were trying to get the Soviet Union to believe it, right?
Okay.
Correct?
Why would you try and convince the Soviets but not your own people?
Because they were in a Cold War.
But you're
because it's a big, it's in a sense.
Let me ask a question, right? If you're if the goal in mind is to convince the Soviets,
Yeah.
but you're not worried about the Americans, do you not think that people looking at the American country thinking like, yeah, like they're really trying to make it look like we should believe, but their own people don't? That won't.
No, but exactly. So
Then
they
why
got
did they
to prove
target
to their own people that it is true, right?
Oh, okay, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And then from that, they automatically have to believe that it's true as well.
Okay.
To a certain extent.
I understand
right?
your point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that actually jumps right into my next point here. So the Soviets had a series of encyclopedias that they published. From the years 1970 to 1979, they published the third edition, Great Soviet Encyclopedia. This book cites Apollo 11 as the third historic event of the space age. The other two were Soviet launches. One of them was when they had the first ever man in space. They sent a man in the satellite and he did an orbit around the Earth. The first one was the first ever satellite in space, being Sputnik.
Yeah.
They cite the Americans. This is during the Cold War. They cite the Americans as beating them to the moon. That is not that's an incredibly humbling thing for the Soviet Union to put into their own encyclopedia, especially considering you're in the middle of a Cold War, right?
Yeah.
There is no reason that they should do this if they did not 100% believe that the Americans actually made it to the moon.
Okay.
Right?
Or there's an or in this, right?
What's the or?
And that would be unless it was all staged in a sense. That the Soviet Union and the United States of America somehow connected this. That is why they humbled themselves.
So your if in this situation is proposing that the Soviets and the Americans have been working together the entire time to try and trick the rest of the world into not understanding that we didn't land on the moon? So here you have conflicting evidence.
Okay.
You are saying on one hand, the Americans are trying to trick the Soviet Union into thinking the moon landing is fake by tricking their own general public, right? Because of the repeated number of launches we had.
Yep.
But you're also saying that they were working together with the Soviets to try and trick the rest of the world that the moon landing was fake at the same time? That implies that the Soviets know that it's fake and they know that everything is just a hoax. That doesn't work together. You can't try and trick someone to thinking something is real while they know it's real and are helping you present it to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
But in terms of if they want, in a sense, power, yes, because they will work together.
No, but that doesn't logically work. You cannot try and fake something to convince someone else that it is fake, but at the same time, they know full well that it's real and are helping you create this hoax. You know, it doesn't work. You can't make someone think something is real from the outside.
Yeah.
If at
but
the
they
same
know
time
it's fake.
they are on the inside helping you.
Yeah.
You're assuming that they know nothing about the fake and that they are helping you with the fake. That doesn't work.
But that's just, no, you're saying it. I think you're saying it a little bit different than I would explain it. It's
Let me re-explain it then.
okay. So like okay, can I explain this first?
Sure.
Okay. So I don't believe this. I'm just saying this could be a possibility, right?
Hold on. If you don't believe it, why are you saying it?
Because I'm being plain devil's advocate here.
Okay.
So if America and the Soviet Union are at a conflict,
yeah,
but they work together on this moon mission, right? In a sense,
okay,
because they're actually like don't think like whatever. This Cold War is essentially a distraction to what is actually happening.
And what is actually happening?
They're faking the moon landing.
Are you saying the entirety of the Cold War is to fake the moon landing?
Boom.
I'm going to be respectful and say that I disagree.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm just saying I don't believe that, but I'm just saying that
That is what
I'm
that
sure
is your
there's.
explanation of why we believe the moon landing is that the Americans and the Soviets were actually working together.
That's why the
and
Soviets would believe the moon landing.
The reason the Soviets would believe the moon landing is because we faked the entire Cold War.
I think I don't understand your wording to this.
So here's the biggest problem I have to this point.
Okay.
I have more questions to ask, but
Yeah.
here's my biggest problem. When I said if it was all fake, why would we have 7 launches? Why would the Americans have 7 Apollo missions to the moon?
Yeah.
Your explanation is because if you repeat it out, you are trying to convince the American general public, which will therefore convince the Soviets that we went to the moon because we've done it repeatedly. The first time we got some people, but there were some people that were a little bit skeptical. So we said, hey, we'll do it again. And then we do it again. We get a few more people. And at this point, because we've done it twice, public interest is beginning to low down. But generally, people think that it's true. Apollo 13 was our creative way of mixing it up a little, saying, hey, this is like really, really hard. And we almost got it wrong, but everything is fine. We didn't kill anybody. To add a little bit of realism to it. And then we do that with 7 missions. That gets most of the public to believe, but by the time we do the 7th one, because general interest has dropped so much, generally speaking, people are just going to accept it.
Amen.
That is your first argument.
Amen.
So the implied meaning of that is the Soviets fall into the category of the American public in the sense of hearing all of this, they think, oh, the Americans did it.
Yeah.
Dang it. Important note, we're going to come back to this, but not right now. This is assuming that the only way the Soviets know about it is hearing from the Americans. Because you're putting the two in the same camp, right? This is assuming that all the information the Soviets have is what the Americans are telling to the Americans. Right? So that's the logic for that argument. But the logic for the other argument being the Soviets actually published it in their own book was that they knew about it and they were complying with the Americans to stage everything. You cannot be fully convinced of a lie and genuinely believe it to be true while helping fabricate the lie. If my favorite color is red, and I really, really, really want you to think that my favorite color is blue, and I use a bunch of manipulation tactics and spend $30 billion on making you believe my favorite color is blue, it is impossible for you to be a part of that manipulation and helping to generate funds for that to make yourself think my favorite color is blue while you know my favorite color is red.
But
that does not work together.
But I can write it somewhere that it is blue.
If you don't genuinely believe it, why would you tell your public, who you are also trying to convince that you are better than the United States, that the United States did something better than us? You have to think about it from the Soviet Union's perspective. They are at the other end of the Cold War with the United States. They are telling the Soviet Union, we are better than the US. Our technology is more advanced than the US. We've beaten them every step of the way. To now say that the biggest milestone that we've been chasing, to put a man on the moon, we failed at repeatedly.
Why acknowledge it though?
Why acknowledge that happened? Because it happened. Because it actually happened.
Why even acknowledge that? That's not good propaganda.
I think they have to. You can't simply ignore it.
Yes, to a certain extent, you can convince your own people
that it's fake.
That it was completely fake.
That actually is.
Why wouldn't they do that?
Because it wasn't.
Okay, but why wouldn't they do it?
They would want to.
Okay.
They would want to think it's fake if it was fake. If they had any kind of suspicion the Americans faked the moon landing, that's exactly what they would tell their people, that they faked it. But that is not what they did. They published it in the Great Soviet Encyclopedia that the Americans in the Apollo 11 mission got a man on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
They did not think it was fake.
Yeah.
They didn't preach that it was fake. They accepted that it happened.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't think that you can say that they didn't know, but they knew at the same time.
So, but the thing about that is the Soviet Union
Mhm.
was a what's it called?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out the word. What's North Korea?
I know what you're trying to. I know what you think. I know what you're trying to get to.
It is a
It's run by one guy or a group of elites.
yeah,
Dictatorship.
a dictatorship, right? So the Soviet Union
Mhm.
is a dictatorship, right?
Yeah. So one guy can tell the public whatever he wants,
Yep.
and they're gonna believe him
They're gonna believe it. So why would he say that it was real?
because it was.
No, but why would he say that?
I'll respond with a question. If they thought it was fake, why wouldn't they just tell the public it was fake?
Exactly.
Because it wasn't.
No, but no,
If
like
let's assume it was fake.
if they believe that it was real and they don't want to tell their people that and make their people think that,
Yeah,
then why say it was real?
it's irrefutable. They know it happened. They know it happened.
Okay, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so Kim Jong-un,
Yeah.
you know what he actually tells his people is he does not, right?
Okay.
He does not take a crap, right?
Okay.
He knows himself that he takes a crap,
Mm-hmm.
right? But he tells his people that they believe him,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we all know that he does because he's human, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why would the Soviet Union not tell their people
Mm-hmm.
that it was fake and not real?
Because I don't think that that's a place. I don't think they were in a place where they could. I don't think that they would have enough power to completely gaslight their people into thinking it was fake, with the entire American consensus being it's real, the rest of the world recognizing that it's real,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that we're going to get into here is that they can monitor space.
Mm-hmm.
The Soviets themselves are completely convinced the Americans did it.
Yeah.
And they're just honest. We didn't get it.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean. I don't think that it serves your side of the argument very much because let's say it was fake.
Yeah.
Why would they preach that it was real? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but this goes back to that other point.
Randy.
This goes back to that other point. Now you're proving the point that they would have worked together.
No.
Yes.
If the moon landing was fake,
if it was fake, they would help them out.
If the moon landing was fake, it serves no purpose for the Soviet Union to want to tell their public that it's real. Because that means the space race is still a race.
Mm-hmm.
There's still no one's beaten the USSR yet, right?
Yep.
Like
So,
this is what is actively going on. If you want to claim that the Soviet Union and the States have been working together the whole time, you have to discredit the entire Cold War and the space race. That is bull-loney. Like that's beyond. You have to be so ignorant to just say that that didn't happen.
Okay.
It's unanimously accepted and proven.
So why would they not
thing.
tell their own people that it was fake? Go to the moon themselves, and then say,
"What do you mean?
Ours was real, theirs was fake."
Why wouldn't they do that?
Yeah. Why wouldn't they do that?
Because they tried and it didn't work. You have to.
Now you're saying that they.
Let me explain myself.
Okay.
The USSR, the Soviet Union, the Russians have beaten the US to every major milestone up to getting a man on the moon.
Yeah.
They didn't stop. They were trying to get a man on the moon. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Their missions were not good enough. They did not all function well enough to get to the moon. They were trying, but it wasn't working.
So why would you not claim that it was fake at that point?
Because they knew it wasn't.
Okay, but they can't get to the moon.
They can't get to the moon.
They can't get to the moon, so why not say it was fake?
Why? They could have. I bet you they probably did to an extent. But they know after whatever. Like there is I'll back up. Why do I say that? I think there will be a little bit of a disbelief. Like no, they couldn't have possibly beaten us. In that sense, they probably said, no, that has to be fake.
Yeah.
But once you have the realization, it's like if you're a hockey fan and there's a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup Finals finally. Let's say it's like Edmonton and Colorado. Florida. Edmonton to Florida. And Edmonton loses in Game 7. And there's that disbelief of, no, that didn't just happen. There's that disappointment of disbelief. I think that definitely happened with the Russians and the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
I can dang near guarantee. I wasn't there, but I'm pretty sure that's happened.
Yeah.
But once recognition kicks in, it's like, you know what? It's irrefutable. Like, the Americans have enough evidence to put forward that's just like they did it, right? And
why would they put enough evidence forward? Why would they not just copy and paste the evidence? Do it themselves.
Okay, so you were asking whether or not it's feasible for whether or not it would be beneficial for the Soviets to lie about the moon landing. What was your question?
Why wouldn't they just copy and paste it?
Why wouldn't the Americans copy and paste it?
No, why wouldn't the Soviet Union just copy and paste what they did?
Because exactly what the Americans did?
Yeah.
They didn't know exactly what the Americans did. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So they didn't know exactly what the Americans
They did not know exactly, like, line for line, number for number, how the Americans did it. They know what happened, but they don't know how they did it.
Yeah. So why would you not claim it as fake then?
Because it wasn't fake.
No, why would you
They
not?
can't claim that it was fake.
Because, okay, so they tried everything that they could.
This is another thing I'm going to bring up. The Russians have exasperated themselves trying to get there. The Americans got there.
Yeah.
And I think the Russians are at a point where they're like, you know what, we don't know how they did it, but they did it. But we're just rehashing the same point. And I want to bring up a handful of other things first that are going to, hopefully it'll help you understand.
Okay.
So that entire argument is assuming that the Soviet Union is only at the same place of the American public, and everything they hear from the Americans is what they know, but they don't know anything else. When we argue like that, that is the perspective we're coming from. That is not the case. The Soviet Union had deep space tracking tech as early as 1962.
Okay.
They had stations that could observe space and satellites and different rockets that were launched in 1962. This is years before any of the Apollo missions get launched. They can monitor what's going on in space. They don't need the American government to put out a statement saying this is what we're doing. They already know.
Yep.
They're monitoring it themselves.
Yep.
So if it was fake, the Soviets would have had an ample amount of evidence to say, hey, like we've been watching y'all for like 10 years now. You never did that. Because we can watch everything you do. We saw the rocket go up, but you didn't do that.
Yeah.
But the Soviets didn't do that.
Yep. You know why?
Because they were working together?
No. Because they know that it went to space. And I said this at the beginning already. I believe that they sent a rocket to the moon. I believe that they sent all of them to the moon.
So if you okay, a little bit of a side question then. You would acknowledge the rockets that went to the moon are as is told.
Yep.
If you think that the math that went into designing a rocket to get to the moon is right.
Yep.
The math figuring out how the engines are going to work, what fuel to use, how much fuel to use, what kind of materials to build it with, that's all accurate and it worked and they did that.
Yep.
Why would you not believe then that the same people couldn't figure out how
Because you can send metal into space and it working, right?
Hey guys, Editor Huddy here again. This episode was an hour and a half long, so we're going to cut it in half and make 2 out of this. The next one will be out soon, and we're going to end it here. So if you want to hear how it ends, pay attention in the coming week or 2. We'll have it out for you. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching or listening, depending on what platform you are on.